My name is Todd McDaniel, and today the webinar is about our product called Collect It. So just kind of run over a brief agenda here. First, I'll give you a real brief overview of our company, a little bit of history and kind of how we got to where we are now. Then a brief overview of how Collect It works. We'll do a live demo, and then we'll have time afterwards for a little Q&A. So first of all, to kick it off, a little bit about Dynavistics. We're based just outside Tampa, Florida. We've been around for almost 15 years now. So next February will be 15 years, or 14 years, sorry. We have 500 customers in 15 countries, 500 plus. And we have been specialized in consulting and software implementation in small and medium-sized markets. All of our development and support is done onshore. So whenever you call us or talking to us, you're talking to somebody either here in our Tampa office, or we have some remote employees, well, not in the Tampa office, nobody's in the office anymore, in their Tampa homes, or we have some employees spread out across the United States, but everything is done onshore. So a little bit about Collect It. We built Collect It several years ago because we found ourselves doing what Collect It does as custom work on some implementations that we were working on. So we found a lot of times a customer would be up and running on their ERP system. They'd be transacting business. Several months would go by, and then somebody would go, hey, we're not getting paid. And so the focus would switch from making the sales and getting the goods out the door to coming back around and figuring out how to get paid on time and to get paid in full. So we decided to make Collect It a standalone application. It integrates with Sage 300, has a pre-built integration that Acumen actually helped us write. So it has an integration back and forth with Sage 300. And we also have other integrations available, and we do custom integrations. So if you have another system outside of your Sage 300 system that you want to capture data from for the collections process, we can bring that data also into Collect It. It's all based on a .NET environment. It's written in C#, and it has a Microsoft SQL Server database, so it fits in nicely with your existing Sage 300 implementation. We also wanted to automate a lot of the communication and to modernize some of the communication back and forth with customers. So we allow communication in and out of Collect It via email, and then we also allow you to use a fax server to fax letters and invoices. Or if you still want to send it postal mail, we can have them queue up and to be printed out to be sent postal mail. That includes the copies of the invoices and the statements. So we have the ability to automatically attach those as part of our automated communications, or if there's a manual email that you want to send from the system. So that's just some high-level information about Collect It. Now we have a couple survey questions that we want to throw out there to get a little bit of feedback and to learn a little bit about where you guys currently are with the collections process. So the first question is, what account receivable management system do you use right now? And A is the nicest one. You don't really care because everybody pays you on time and everything just works beautifully. B, we print things off, highlight it with a highlighter, hand it out to people, and they make calls or send emails. C, we're using Excel. D, we're using another specific Sage tool. Or E, we have an automated AR management system already in place. So you'll get a little survey question there, and we'll just give it a couple minutes to get the answers. Okay, so we got a pretty even split between three options. So a third of you are printing things off and highlighting the concerned accounts. A third of you are using a Sage specific tool, and a third of you already have an automated AR management system in place. So the next question that we have in the survey, and this just kind of gives you an idea of how it works with invoices that go past due. So based on some research that's been done, what percentage of invoices that are 3 months overdue end up being uncollectible forever? So once something hits 90 days past due, what's your guess as to what percentage of those are never collected? Alrighty, so the winner on this one from your responses is 5%. A third of you believe it's 5%. The other 2/3 are split pretty equally between 10, 15, 25, and over 26%. So there was actually some research done about a year and a half ago, and it said that once something hits 3 months old, 26% of those invoices on average are uncollectible. Once something hits 9 months old, 90% of those are uncollectible. So basically, once it hits 9 months old, it's past, it's a write-off. So a little bit more of an impact to be able to get those invoices collected as soon as possible and to keep as many as possible from going into the 90 days past due. So some of the things that we look at that you improve with an AR management system is reducing your days sales outstanding. So not only are you reducing the ones that never get paid, but you're getting those invoices paid faster so that you have working capital for working your business. Reducing your bad debts, reducing everything that's past due overall. But then on the other side of that, we wanted to create a system that allowed you to increase your collector efficiency. So we all want the goals of reducing bad debt, reducing things that are past due, but you don't want to spend 10 FTEs chasing after the invoices constantly. So the idea was to create a system that increased the collector efficiency and allow you, for the most part, most of our customers realize an ROI on this system in 2 to 3 months. As they're collecting the money more conveniently, they're getting reporting so they can accurately identify exactly what they need to focus on. And then they're also improving the customer engagement. So we have all the notes and all the history of the invoice. So when we call the customer, they know that we have everything we've talked to them about previously. We're not having to catch up and figure out, even if it's a different collector calling them, everything is there in front of the collector. So you have a better conversation and you increase your customer engagement and satisfaction as part of that process. So then what's the one must-have benefit you need from an AR management system? I think this is the last question in the quiz, right, Stephen?
I believe we have one more at the end.
Oh, okay. So do you need to improve cash flow? Do you want to reduce sales outstanding? Improve or increase your collector productivity? Standardize your collection efforts? Or improve your sales and accounting relationship? So your salespeople and your accounting people get together at the Christmas party. Alrighty, so big winner with improving your collector productivity. So 60% looking for ways to continue what you're doing now, but making it more efficient, maybe collecting a little bit earlier with a little bit less effort. So that's part of what we're going to show you here in the system. So some of the things that we've put as essential features to get paid faster is we have unlimited custom collection strategies to automate your workflow. So one of the main pillars behind the system is the ability to automate the routine tasks. So if every time a customer hits 5 days past due, you want to send them an email, that's not something you should have to remember to do or something you mark off on a spreadsheet or on a printout. That's something the system should just take care of automatically. So that's part of the collection strategy that we've created, and I'll show you how that works when we get into the demo. Also, as part of that, we have a communication tool. Stores all the history, the audit trail, and all the letters that you've sent that customer in the past as you collect on those transactions. We store customer and invoice notes, so you can have notes about how you deal with that customer, information about what's happened in the past about a specific invoice or even a specific call, and we store all those notes and they stay in the system as long as you want to keep them there. One of the things, the big interest on the poll was about collector efficiency, is we automatically create a task list and calendar entries for the collectors to work on. So this is something that you can automatically set up, and it's going to put those tasks on there. Now, we use the word reps here because it's not just for collectors. So one of the ways that we are a little bit different than other systems is the way our licensing works. It's not based specifically on users, it's based on volume. So you can have people other than collectors in here, and they can actually get tasks automatically created. So one of the examples we always use is if you have a dispute from a customer and they say, I didn't get the price that the salesperson promised me. Well, you can set that as a pricing dispute, and you could have the system automatically create a task on the salesperson's calendar for them to look into that and determine if there should be an adjustment made for that. Same thing, if there was a damage on the shipping, you could have a task created on the warehouse manager's task list, and then they could look in and see if they have a damage report from the shipping company. So again, we're trying to automate that and automatically keep up on those tasks so that your collectors are more efficient. We also have the ability to create powerful reports, business intelligence, including an AR dashboard to show you what's going on in the system as a whole. You can develop and schedule a call list however you want that to happen based on whatever factors about the invoice or the customer's balance. And then we have a reporting hierarchy in the system. So if you have a larger collections department, you can have people report to different people. The supervisors can see everybody that reports to them, their task list, their agings, and be able to track all that information in real time to see what's going on as part of the collections process. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna escape out of the PowerPoint here, and we're gonna flip over to a demo. So this is the dashboard or the screen that you get when you log in to collect it. This is gonna show you different widgets or graphs of what's going on in your system. This is customizable. You guys can create, or we can create with you, whatever widgets you wanna see or whatever graphs make sense. These are also things that you can drill into. So as part of being efficient with your collectors is we wanted a system that was easy to use and intuitive. So if I look at the aging graph here and I click on it, it's going to open up my aging automatically. Now, one of the things that we also wanted to do is we wanted to make this where it required as little training as possible. So we've made a lot of our stuff look and work like Excel. So anywhere in the system that I get a grid like this, that means that the grid format is customizable by the user. So they can take and slide columns around. So if I want my total column over here, I can just move it out. Oops, didn't quite take. Move it out there. And then it will stick like that for my user. So whenever I log in, the total column will be on the end, where if somebody else logs in, they may want to see it next to customer. So I can set these grids up to look and work however I want them to work. I can also sort and filter. So if I wanted to sort by total of what people owed me, maybe I wanted to filter it down to maybe only people that owed me more than $15,000, let's say. So I can quickly sort that down, filter that out. It gives me a subtotal and shows me exactly those people that are assigned to me that owe me more than $15,000. Now, like I said, we have a reporting hierarchy. So Rep 2 also reports to me. So if I wanted to see their information, I could add them to my list. They don't have anybody. Oh, there we go. So they had a few more that had more than $15,000, so I would see all of them on the list. I can also one-click send this out to Excel if I want to. Now, we kind of hope you don't use that button. We hope that we've provided everything in the system that you don't need to export to Excel. But if you do, there is one button there that you can click, and it'll go out to Excel. So a lot of times, this is how collections worked, right? You know, some of you marked this on the poll, is you would print out or you would use Excel to come up with people you think maybe needed to be called based on their balance or based on their aging. And then you would set the people to work calling them or sending them emails to remind them. And this is the part we wanted to automate. So we did that via the strategies. So if I go look at a strategy here, and a strategy is just a fancy way of saying what you want the system to do automatically for you. And we've tried to do this where you can write these yourself. Now, we set up 3 strategies as part of the implementation, or up to 3 strategies. But we wanted this to be intuitive and something that your super users or your admins could actually work with. So if you look here, my first step in this sample strategy, I'm saying if days past due is greater than 0 and it's less than 11, then I want to create an event where I send reminder letter 1 to the AP contact. Now, all of these are drop downs, so I can choose different parameters: days past due, days past the invoice date, the amount, the customer balance, all of that information. I can have it create an event, which is something the system does automatically. I can have it create a task, which is something the user has to do, so a call or an account review or something like that. I can set the invoice status. So it can be the what status do I want to have on the invoice, and how do I want it to, is it a hold or something like that, or a dispute? I can also have a customer status. So do I want to set a customer status here, that this customer is on hold, or something like that? Then I can also use this to send internal emails. So this is what I was talking about being able to send the email based on the status. So if I wanted to send to a salesperson for a pricing dispute, or I wanted to send it to the warehouse manager, I can have that happen automatically, and it'll send that internal email. So in this case, I have a pretty simple strategy. After the first day past due, I'm going to send a reminder letter. Now, we have customers that have been very successful proactively sending reminders. And these letters can be customized however you want them to be. They can have your logo, your text, whatever you want it to say. But we have customers that, 5 days before the payment's due, they send out a reminder letter. And a lot of you probably already get that from your credit card companies. They're doing that more often now, where you get a little email saying, hey, you have a payment coming up. So they're not relying just on sending the statement and sending the invoices to you. So we can do that. We can have it even prior to the due date. In this case, I'm going to send a reminder letter. Then I'm going to wait. If I get to 7 days, I'm going to go ahead and create a task where it says call one. And call one is going to go on the user's calendar or task list, and it's going to be there for them to make that call. Now, if the invoice that this is related to gets paid before they finish the call, it'll remove it from their task list. So you don't have to worry about them calling on invoices that have been past due. I can even have this show up on their calendar or task list 3 days before it's due. All right. Now, these strategies can be as simple or as complex as you want them to be. So my next step here, I'm saying if days past due is greater than 20 and I don't have a promise to pay, then I want to send the second reminder letter. All right. And it just escalates. I can also control what type of contact at the customer I want to send this to. So the first 2 letters I may just send to their AP contact, but this third letter I may send to the CFO contact or their controller contact if I have that. And that's part of me managing my contacts in the system based on the type of contact. But the idea here is that the system controls those tasks, controls that strategy or process that you want to use to collect from your customers. And you also end up with a very consistent process. So, part of the big challenge with collections is being consistent. If your customer knows that if they go 1 day past due with you, they're going to get an email, and if they go 7 days past due, they're going to get a call, then your invoices might magically float to the top of the list to get paid a little bit quicker than maybe somebody else's, because you have that consistent effort and that consistent process that's coming up on the task list and the calendar for your users. But again, we are automating those letters so that it's not, you're actually generating more effort through the system and actually less effort on the users, ideally. All right. So once I have a strategy in place, then the day in the life of a collector basically revolves around their task list or their calendar, however they like to work. So if I bring up my calendar here, I see that I have a number of tasks that I need to work on. And I have a task today that is due at 4 p.m. I'm on a different time zone, so it's already showing past due. But I have a task I could see here, or I could have it out on my calendar. I'm on my task list. I could export, or I could print this if I wanted to see my task list or my calendar. If I'm a supervisor, I can also see the people that report to me, their task lists. If it's in red, it's past due, so I know where they stand just at a glance. But this is what I would be working off as a collector, and this is based on the strategy, putting these tasks on my calendar, or other users if they're escalating to me. So once I'm ready to actually work a task, then I just click what I want to work on. So I'm going to click this last task here. And this is going to open up the customer's account and show me information about the customer. So one of the things I want to stop and talk about just for a second here is you'll notice that as I'm working, there's just tabs opening up across my my tab bar here. And that allows me to have a lot of different things going on at once. So if I open this up and I'm reviewing this account before I make a call, and another customer calls me, I don't have to shut everything down. I can just click account. I can look up their customer account and open up their customer record, answer any questions that they have, see where they're at, make notes if I need to, and then I can go right back to where I was on that account. So it allows me to have that flexibility to have multiple customers open, multiple work records, all kinds of information. So again, making this easy for the user, we tried to get everything that they would need to work this account on a single screen, but also make it readable and make it easy to use. So on the left-hand side here, I have just general information about the customer. So I can see a summary, contacts that I have, and I can scroll through different contacts, addresses, their website if I have it, their current account status, their balance, plus their amount due, the unapplied amount. So this is the amount due is 33 less the unapplied amount equals their balance right now. If they have anything in dispute, it shows me how much of that is actually under a dispute status. Their credit limit, the last time I got a payment from them, and their last payment. And so I can see that all at a glance. If I want a little more detail, I can see their customer credit rating. We have an internal credit rating system that rates your customer based on two parameters. One, how they buy. So you can set up different percentiles to say, okay, my top 10% of customers by sales are A's, my next 20% are B's, et cetera. And then how they pay. So how many average days to pay do they have on their invoices? So that way, when your collectors are looking at a customer, they have a glance of not just how this customer pays and how their receivables, but also how important they are to you as a customer. So if they're an A customer, I'm going to prompt them to maybe treat them a little bit better or treat them a little more kid gloves than if they're a C or D customer going through the collections process. We also have the ability to do a credit score or a D&B rating if you get that. Credit limit, the salesperson assigned, some different information about the customer. Then down here, I have 3 check boxes. So we can assign one or more strategies to a customer, but then we can also choose to temporarily opt them out of the strategy. So if I click this opt-out strategy, it's going to say, even if they qualify to have a call scheduled or to get an automated email, I don't want that happening right now. And that may be if you're in some sort of negotiations with them, or for whatever reason, you just want to make sure nothing automatic happens with this customer, then you opt them out of the strategy and nothing will go automatically or nothing will be scheduled for them. Then we can go one step further and put them under what's called cease and desist. And this happens a lot of times if you have a customer that's going through bankruptcy, even though they owe you money, legally you may not be able to contact them. So this will opt them out of any strategy happening automatically. But in addition to that, if you try to work this account manually, enter notes or anything, you're going to get a warning message saying this customer is marked as cease and desist. Are you sure you want to continue? Just to let them know, hey, you maybe shouldn't be calling this customer. Then the last one is to opt them out of the monthly statement. So we have the ability to send monthly statements from here instead of your ERP system. They can be set up however you want to show them logos. They can all go out on the same day of the month, or you can have different customers get in statements on different days of the month, and you can have them sent out monthly or weekly if you need to. Now, one of the other things that sets us apart as a collection system is we have unlimited user fields. So obviously we bring all the important information from Sage 300 in, but if there's information that you want to store or know about a customer, an invoice, or a payment that we don't currently have a field for, you can just set up a new field for that. And you can either populate that manually, or we can add it to the integration, and it can be integrated from Sage 300 or any other system that you have. These user fields can be text, they can be dates, they can be checkboxes, they can be numbers, they can be hyperlinks to other systems, and they can even be document attachments. The really cool part about this is not only can you store this information here, but once you set up the field, it becomes available to use in the strategy. So if you wanted to set up, for example, a user field that was, customer credit application, and you would attach the customer credit application there as soon as you received it, you could have a workflow in your strategy that said, you know, if this customer goes 1 day past due and I don't have a credit application on file yet, then send not only a reminder letter, but send the credit application also with it. So you can have different things happen based on that process. All right. Now, the next tab is how we assign the accounts to a user. Now, just because an account is assigned to a user does not mean that other users can't work that account or see it or do anything with it. All it means is when the strategy is going to assign tasks, what user do you want those tasks assigned to within the system? So you can assign a user to an account. You can also, if you have security, one by one, reassign it, or you can reassign it in bulk in the admin menu. But one of the nice things we do is we also allow you to temporarily reassign accounts. So typically you're going to do this in bulk if you have a collector who's going out on vacation or FMLA. You can put in a from and to date. On that from date, it will move all of their tasks and information to the reassigned user. Then on the to date, when they return, it'll move it all back to their user automatically. So it'll control that who's being, you know, make sure you don't miss things while somebody's out on vacation, but also don't make it where you manually have to go and click all those things and reassign them and then reassign them back when they come back. Okay, on the right-hand side, I'm going to come back to this tab in a second, but this is where we get into more transaction information. So I can see a quick aging by invoice of everything they have outstanding. I can see all their paid invoices. If I click on this little button here, it tells me the transaction that paid that invoice. Then I can see it reverse. I can see all the payments, and I can see all the transactions that were paid by those payments. So it'll show me that it was paying whatever invoice was being paid by that payment. We also have contacts in the system. These contacts can come over from your ERP system, or they can be managed in this system. So the contacts are made up of just the name, the contact type, which is what I was talking about in the strategy. It's optional, but if you want to store what type of contact they are to produce escalation emails, you can. Their phone numbers, email, and then whether or not what location they're at your customer. We allow you to store bank information if you have it about your customer. And then we store a history of everything that happens on the account. Now, it includes things that happened by a user, so they went in and typed in a note or made a call or whatever, or sent them a copy. But it also includes everything the system does automatically. So you'll see that it automatically created a late notice and it sent that out. And it'll show that information so you know everything that's happened. This history stays even after the invoices are paid. And again, because it's in a grid format, you can filter and sort based on whatever transaction you're looking for the history on. Now, the last thing we'll talk about is payment plans. So we allow you to set up payment plans. This is one of these things is every time I ask a customer, you know, do you do payment plans? And somebody on the call goes, no. And then there's about 3 other people on the call that go, well, yeah, kind of, sort of, maybe sometimes. And it turns out they have several payment plans in place. So the way we work payment plans is you choose the invoices that you want to put on the payment plan. So if I was going to put these 3 invoices on the payment plan, let's say, and then you choose how many payments they're going to make. So I'll say they're going to pay them over the next 6 months. So 6 payments with 30 days between payments. The system automatically calculates how much needs to be paid by each date. And once I activate this or save this payment plan, then the system's going to monitor that customer's payment activity. And if I don't receive at least $440.75 by January 9th, it's going to automatically put a task on the collector's calendar that's assigned to this account saying this customer missed a payment plan. So it not only sets up the payment plan, it monitors and makes sure that the payments are actually made and reminds users to follow up if the payments haven't been made. All right, so we'll close that payment plan, go back and look at our customer here. So going back to the unpaid invoices tab, the first thing you'll notice is I have 4 invoices that are checked off. And that's just telling me that these are the 4 invoices that are related to the task that I clicked that I wanted to work. Doesn't mean that I can't talk to the customer about other invoices, but it's just saying this is what you're calling about. Now, before I make the call, I may just want to make a quick review. So I can quickly see here in my grid that these are under a damage dispute right now. The last thing that happened is there was an account review done today on these 4 invoices. I can also see all the notes and all the previous actions that have happened on this account for this invoice. I can see any payments that have been made. So if I had partial payments, which you'll see on this invoice, the original amount was $4,322, and there's $468.70 left. So I can see there was 2 payments and a credit memo. I can see all that information before I even get to the call. And again, I may have user fields that I want to have here to see more information about this or to see documents that are attached. But once I'm ready to actually complete this task, then I'm going to click Work Invoices, and this is where I'm actually telling the system that I'm going to try to complete this task. So in this case, my task was to make call 2. Now these actions, these are all that we deliver with them, but you can change, add, modify too. So if you want to, have 6 calls or 3 calls or no calls or however you want to set up your actions, that's part of the system setup. But I'm going to say that I'm going to make the second call on these invoices. And it's asking me who I talked to. I'll say I talked to Bob here. And then we have a couple optional things here that you can set up. So we have responses that you can select from. So one of the main things that you get probably when you make a phone call about an invoice is they say, hey, I didn't get a copy of that invoice. I didn't get that invoice. Can you send me a copy? And you say, sure. So you can set up a response that says needs a copy of the invoice or needs duplicate invoice or whatever you want the response to say. And that accomplishes a few different things for you. Is one, it keeps you from having to type that note over and over and over again in the work note. But the second thing it does is because you're choosing it from a dropdown rather than typing it in a work note, is it gives you some reporting capabilities. So again, we wanted to provide information and business intelligence as part of this process. So if I looked and said, almost every time I call Bob, he says he needs a copy of the invoice. Now, it could be that Bob's just lying to me, but it could also mean that maybe I'm not sending the invoice to the right address the first time. So maybe I want to verify his address and make sure that I'm sending it to him the right place the first time. So I get some information about what kind of feedback I'm getting from the customer, and then I can maybe make decisions based on that. The third thing that it does for you is it allows you to somewhat control your collector's responses and processes. So needs a copy of the invoice, I can actually control when that response is available to be selected based on the action. So an example of that is, maybe on the first and second time I call him and Bob says, hey, I didn't get that. Can you send me a copy? I'll say, sure, okay. I sent it to you one time before, but no problem, I'll send it again. But if I'm making the third or fourth call on this and Bob says, hey, I need a copy of that invoice, I want to guide my collector to not accept that as a response, right? I've already sent it to him twice. And so I may not make that available in my dropdown of responses here. And that will prompt them to dig a little bit deeper and say, hey, Bob, I show here that we sent it to you 3 times already. I don't understand why you're not getting it, but I need a little bit more information, or I need a little more commitment from you that this is going to get paid. So again, these are optional. You don't have to use responses. You don't have to set them up, but they do give you a lot of business intelligence, and they will help you guide your collectors to collect the way you want them to. The next thing I choose is a status. Again, these are things that come pre-built with the system, but you can set up new ones or change or delete the ones that are there. If you choose a dispute status, then you also have dispute reasons that you can set up. And like I said, these can trigger workflow actions. So if it was a price concern, I could say, okay, no problem. Your salesperson will be contacting you to discuss that. And I don't have to put anything in. I don't have to send anything. Just as soon as I complete and save this action, the system will automatically trigger an email to the salesperson telling them, hey, there's a pricing dispute on this. And it'll put a task on their task list and collect it for them to go in and respond to that task and determine what the resolution was. Now from here, I can also choose what I want to happen next, when I want it to happen, and I can even assign the next action to someone else if I needed to. Now, most of the time, you're not going to use these fields because the strategy is taking care of that for you in the background. But if you talk to Bob and Bob's like, yeah, I can't pay you, we're in really bad place, then you may want to escalate that or move that right along. And you may say, listen, I need the legal department to do an account review on this, and I need it done by Friday because it doesn't sound like Bob's going to be business long. Then you can go in and assign that, and it will create that task on the legal department or whoever's calendar that you're assigning that to. Now, if you are talking to Bob and he needs a copy of the invoices, you say, no problem, Bob. I'll get that to you right now. Just stay on the line. So I can click send letter, and this is going to bring up a letter format. We build these in for you as part of the system, but this is going to say, okay, this is a reminder you have these invoices due. It's going to include copies of the invoice. You can include a copy of the statement if you want to. You say, Bob, I'm not only going to send you those invoices, but I'm going to send you a copy of the statement so you know. It's going to drop that information into the body of the email. And as you click send, it's going to send that email out to Bob, and it's also going to put a history record in saying that those invoices were sent. So the next time you talk to Bob and he says, I never got those invoices, you can say, yep, Bob, I sent them to you back on December 9th at 2:39 p.m. All right. Now, if I'm done with this task, then I can say complete and save, and that's going to close and remove it off of my task list. If there's more information I want to record, I can enter a work note. Now, a work note is a note about what I did or what interaction I had to try to collect on this invoice. We also store invoice notes, which are just notes about the invoice in general. So this was a special pricing program or something like that, if there's something you want to store about the invoice, but it wasn't connected to a specific interaction that you had. And then we also have customer notes, which are just notes about the customer. You'll see on the customer record that, you know, maybe about their industry or anything else you want to store about the customer, you can store in customer notes. But the work notes are really where your collectors are going to live to see what's going on that invoice. Now, when I store this note and this task that I've completed, it's going to store that on all 4 of these invoices. So if Bob pays 2 of them, when I go back in a few days to call him again on the other 2, I will still see all of the information and all of the records of everything that I have done trying to collect on those invoices. So just because I'm calling on all 4 doesn't mean that I won't have the other information. Now, Bob may also say, hey, you know, while we're talking, I got a question on this other invoice. So I could add another invoice here. I could say, okay, yep, Bob, I'll bring that up. Let me take a look at it. I can bring that transaction up. If I have a copy of it in my system, I can double click it and open it up. I can answer any questions. I can create a new payment plan from here. If I'm talking to Bob and he wants to set up a payment plan, we can do that right from here. So again, the idea is when I have that customer on the phone or I'm reviewing that account, I have everything I need in one place and I can complete that and I can send all that information, do whatever I need and complete that interaction to hopefully get paid sooner. So I'm going to say I completed that and I'll save that. Oops. My system is set up to require a status. So I'm going to choose a status here. And we'll save that. And then I would go back to my calendar or task list and I would pick up my next task to be done. So that's kind of the day in the life of the process that they're always in. Now at any time they can take a look at their aging and see, you know, and if they want to get more details, they can even go down to their portfolio, which is their aging by transaction, so they can see it at that level. But really their day-to-day life is going to be in the calendar, in the task list, looking at what they need to accomplish based on the strategy that you've set up. All right, couple other just quick points that I want to cover, and then we'll move back to the PowerPoint and some Q&A. Like I said, our system is licensed based on transaction volume, not users. Users are set up as part of security groups. So it's a group-based security. You set up the group, assign the users to it, and they get different rights or different actions that they can take within the system. All of the letters, like I mentioned, are customizable. The letter template editor works very much like a mail merge within Microsoft Word. So it allows you to drag in different elements from the invoice or the customer or whatever you want to put in there with the little brackets around it. And then that shows you to just substitute in those values. So all of this is customizable. All this is stuff that can be changed by you or by us as part of the implementation. We also allow you to choose how often you want to sync with your ERP system. So as part of the system setup, we set up that sync. Most people, just as a rule of thumb, do it twice a day, usually once after cash receipts are done and once after invoicing is done for the day. But it can be set up to sync as often as you want and at whatever times that you want. You can also, whenever you want, do a manual sync. And also your users always see down here the last time the system was synced. So they always have that information available to them. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna stop the demo here and we'll go back to the PowerPoint. So some of the features, some of the must-haves that we have in an AR management system. So we have a poll here. What are some of your must-haves within this, within an AR management system? So multi-currency, unlimited customer notes, automatically generating the call list, collection strategies, sending the reminder notes automatically, et cetera, et cetera. So if you want to just take a minute and answer what you think is the must-have feature in a collections management system. Okay, so number one is automatically generating the call list, and that goes back to probably some of the information that we have about the you know, the number one feature that people were looking for was making their users more efficient. So, so talk a little bit about how we get collected, set up, and implemented. So we have an essential setup package that comes as part of the purchase and the subscription to Collect It. That includes setting up 3 collector users, up to 3 collectors users, and admin roles. So your standard 3 standard user roles and 1 admin role. Setting up 3 of those strategy workflows to work based on customer rankings or however you want to split up your customer strategies. Setting up all the different permissions based on the standard users and the admin users. The standard reports that come with the system, and then the standard template letters. So a total of 15 letter templates that we've set up, 5 for each of the 3 customer rankings or customer groups that we've done the strategies for. So that's part of what we do out of the box to get up and running and get you into the system. Then, you know, part of that is we're trying to make the implementation and the time to use as short as possible. So we set up in the standard template and we import all of the data. We will also make 1 set of customizations to the workflows, strategies, permissions, reports, and letters. So we do 1 kind of run through the customizations there as far as how you want the workflow and strategies to work other than what we have in the standard setup. And then we do an admin training that allows you to learn how to make the modifications to those same entities in the system. So going back to, you know, I talked about how we want to make the system as easy to use as possible and keep training to a certain level is we have our standard training for a normal user is 2 hours, and then the admin training is an additional 2 hours. And so again, we want this to be an easy implementation and get you working in the system as soon as possible. So the admin training is where we cover doing all those modifications on the role strategies, et cetera. So with that, we have about 12 minutes left. So we'll open it up to Q&A. If you have any questions, there's a chat window, and Stephen will be so good as to read your questions.
Yes.
If
So
you, sorry, go ahead.
I'll go ahead. So right now we'll open up the chat window and question options. So if you guys do have any questions, please feel free to write them in. We actually did have a few questions that came in already, so we can kind of go ahead and get started.
Okay.
You may have answered these because some of these came back in the beginning, but the first question is there a Sage 300 integration, and can you explain the data flow and syncing?
Sure. So yes, it's a pre-built integration that we have with Sage 300. As I mentioned, Acumen helped us build that integration. It brings over all invoices, payments, customer record information, and then it syncs changes as that happens. So as I mentioned, you can choose how often you want to sync. One of the really nice things that we like about Sage 300 versus other ERPs that we work with is we also have a really nice integration for producing copies of the invoices. So when you hit that send letter button that I showed you when you're working the invoices and you choose to send a copy of the invoice, it's actually real time making a query to Sage 300 and getting that PDF of that invoice and attaching it. So it will look just like the invoice they got from Sage when you first invoiced them. So, so that's the Sage 300 integration. And Acumen can answer more technical questions if you have that on that Sage integration, or we can help you also. One of the things I want to mention, if you don't want to ask questions now, you can also reach out to your account manager at Acumen and they can answer any questions you might have or get with me if they need further information.
Thanks, Todd. We'll go ahead and move on to the next one. It says, do I pay for named or concurrent users? And what if I have more than 3 people on at the system at once?
Sure. So like I said, we don't do our users, our licensing based on user count or named or concurrent users. It's based on your invoice transaction volume. So the 3 records that I mentioned are actually 3 roles that we set up. So you could have 50 users set up in the system. As long as they fall into those 3 security roles, everything would be set up as part of the standard implementation. You just assign them to those roles.
Perfect. We'll wait just a few more seconds to see if any more questions come in. So just give me a little bit more time. Okay, I see that one just came in. It says, what is the time frame for going live?
So that's always the funnest question. We can do it as fast as you want to do it. A lot of the information or a lot of the time that it takes is actually going to be work on the client side. You know, coming up with the list of users, reviewing the list of tasks and actions. We try to keep it to around 6 hours of implementation work on our side. That varies wildly for customizations and things like that. But we, you know, like I said, we want to get this product up and running as fast as possible. So oftentimes we can, you know, with dedicated effort on both sides, we can knock this out in a week to 10 days, and you're up and running.
Perfect. And it looks like we'll take one more question. It says, how can I get pricing?
So for pricing, contact your account manager at Acumen. We've set up some special pricing with Acumen, and they'll have all that information and be able to talk to you based on your invoice volume and show you exactly what you'd be paying per month, and then the implementation charge on the front. But it is an extremely affordable system, and like I said, most of our customers are showing positive ROI in the first 2 to 3 months.
Perfect, thanks. I think with that, we can go ahead and wrap up. So thanks again, all of you, for joining us today. If you do have any more additional questions, please reach out to us at am@acumenfl.com, or you can give us a call at 407-965-2411. Also, make sure to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest videos. Again, we hope to see you guys again soon. And thank you, Todd, for the great presentation.
Thank you, everyone, for your time.